Good evening. Welcome to our live Q&A session. This is all very strange for me. I've never done anything like this before. And at the moment, obviously, I don't actually know if anybody's listening anyway. But welcome. I'm Mr. Austin Smart. You can also see on the screen Mr. Brooks, who is my techie support, who I couldn't do this without, I have to say. So thank you very much. I explain very quickly how this is going to work this evening. And I do not intend to keep you all evening. But the way this is going to work is I'm going to run through a few things about how school works and some of the things that we've done to try and enable transition to run smoothly this year, despite the fact that we're not actually at school at the moment properly. And then you will have the opportunity throughout to ask any questions that you want to. And I believe I may have to ask Mr. Brooks about this one, but you can just write your comments in the comments box on Facebook. Is that right, Mr. Brooks?
Yeah, so on Facebook or YouTube, you just put in a question there. I'm going to sit in the background and I'll collate them all, and that's we'll come and bring them, and then Mr. Austin can answer them as we go. So if you've got any questions, pop them in the comment box and we'll make a note of them as we go.
And we will try to, I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. So I'll just explain a little bit. So like I said, I'm Mr. Austin Smart. I've been working in transition between primary and secondary school for many, many years now. And I have to say that this year, more so than any other year, has been really quite exciting for us because we've had to really think outside the box and think about different ways of doing things. Hence, we're doing this live Q&A session. Hence, in a couple of weeks, but this isn't finalized yet, but we're just in the process of sorting it, where we're going to do a live induction day as well on the day that induction day would have been. So my key part of my role in the school is to sort out transition for our pupils. And ordinarily, by this point, your children would have visited our school a couple of times, and I would definitely have visited all of them a couple of times as well. Now, obviously, that hasn't been possible this year, but what I have been able to do, which I'm really pleased about, is I've been liaising with all the primary school teachers from all the schools, and we've got children coming from 28 different schools this year. And I've been liaising with them for the past couple of months to get information about your children, to find out who they work well with, who they don't work well with, etc. And I've used that information. I've also asked them to give me predictions for how they were going to do in their SATs. And I've used all that information to create their teaching groups. Now, I know that there's always a little bit of confusion with the groups, and I have already, there's a video on on Facebook already about this. There's a video on YouTube already about this, but I know it's always really, really confusing. So I will explain it again. So the teaching group that they are in, that is the group which says 7B, 7U, 7S, 7Y, 7W, O, R, and K. Now, it's a teaching group because that's the group that they will be in to have all of their lessons. It's mixed house, so there's children from all 4 different houses in that teaching group, and it's mixed ability, more importantly. I have gone on predictions of what the primary school teachers think that your children will get, and I've created a balanced group. So some kids in the group will be real high flyers and some will need a little bit of extra help. And for those that need a little bit of extra help, there will be some teaching assistant and some inclusion support available. I can talk more about that later if anybody's got any questions about that. So it's a mixed ability group, and I've split up all the schools. So we've got children coming from 28 different schools this year, and I've split them all up. So if you happen to go to Birchwood Primary School, there's 60 children coming from there. So there's usually 6 or 7 children in each teaching group. So that's the teaching group. And like I said, that's what they'll spend most of their time in. And then at the end of year 7, that changes and that all becomes a new group. Their tutor group is a group based on their house. So they're either in Arden, Kenilworth, Stratford or Warwick. And everybody else in their tutor group will also be in the same house. But because there's so many children coming in September, there's 240, there will be 2 classes in each house. So 2 tutor groups in each house. So where on the letter that I sent you last week, it says it's got a teacher code, which might be RID or DRY or any of the other 6 tutor groups. That's their tutor group, and they meet with their tutor group for 25 minutes a day. And that's the only time they spend together. But they will be in that group. That's the only group that they will be in that will stay the same throughout their time at the school. And they will also have the same tutor. Now, the role of the tutor is really important because that's the person that your children and you will know the most during their time at the school, because they will see them every single day. Now, I suppose you probably want to know about some of the changes that your children are going to face when they start with us in September. And hopefully, I don't know for definite what's actually going to happen in September. I am planning as if they are starting in September properly, and I'm hoping that's what's going to be the case. So in September, their first day is the first Wednesday in September. And that day is just for year 7. And the 6th form also come in, but they don't see the 6th form on that day. And what they will do, and one of the videos that we've actually put on the website as well, is a video of where to go on that first day. And they will go to the hall where they will be introduced, and I will do a small assembly. And then I will introduce them to their head of year, who's Mr. White, and their assistant head of year, who's Miss Higgins. And then, depending on what the circumstances are at the time, we will either start going into lessons, or we may spread this out a bit longer. We're still thinking about how that's going to work at the moment, because I'm very conscious of the fact that your children are not getting the usual induction experience that we offer at the Polesworth School. But it is a big change for them. It's a much, much bigger school than they used to. There are just short of 1,600 pupils in the school, which I think, knowing some of the smaller primary schools that your children are coming from, that's quite significantly bigger. I'm going to name check Newton Regis here because I think they're our smallest feeder school. So 1,600 pupils is significantly larger. Your children are going to make new friends that you're not necessarily going to know. They are going to have to get used to traveling around quite a large site. Now, some of the videos that we're going to add next week onto the website are going to be about what happens in each building, because I think it's really important. I could do a tour for you around the school, but the problem is that you might be going, your children might be going into a room from a different direction, so it's not really going to be that helpful. But I can let them know what happens in each building, because generally most buildings are for a specific subject or subjects. So they're going to have to get used to that. They're going to have to get used to the fact that they are no longer the oldest child. They are no longer the big fish in the little pond. They're now the small fish in the big pond. And that takes quite some getting used to. But I think what you'll find if you talk to your children, and actually most of the children that I've so far met on either Zoom calls or any kind of virtual calls, they're all quite excited about coming, or a lot of them are very excited about coming, and they're actually quite looking forward to the variety. I think for a lot of children, by the time they get to the end of year 6, they're ready for that variety. They're ready to have a different teacher for every subject. It can be quite tough to spend all day, every day with the same teachers. I understand that. It's one of the reasons why I went into secondary school teaching. So that's the big change for your kids. Now, I also think it's a big change for you as well, especially if this is your first child coming up to secondary school. I suppose a big change you're going to notice is that you're not going to know all their friends anymore. I know that in primary school, especially in the smaller primary schools, you probably pretty much know who all of your kids' friends are. Sorry, you're not going to know. You're not going to know all of them. You're not going to be able to keep track of what's going on all the time, and it's a big shift for you as well as it is for the kids as well. But that's part of growing up, and that is part of them coming to secondary school. I'm sure nowadays, if you ask If you ask your children what they've been learning at school, you probably only get a one-sentence answer anyway. That will soon be replaced with a grunt and leave me alone. And unfortunately, that is something that you're going to have to get used to as they get a little bit older. One thing, a difference for you as parents and carers as well, is also that in the primary schools, it's quite easy to come in and see your teacher, like, because they're so much smaller. At secondary school, and particularly at Polesworth School, it's not that we discourage that, but if you need to see a teacher, the best thing to do is to actually make an appointment to see that teacher. Or if you just turn up in reception and demand to see a teacher, or really, really need to see a teacher at that moment, the chances are you are not going to be able to see that teacher at that time, because we are teaching. So the best thing to do is to make an appointment. I would also, one thing that I would recommend, because children do bring their mobile phones to school, and we don't really have an issue with them bringing their phones to school as long as they don't use them in lessons. And I can talk about mobile phones later, but we do confiscate mobile phones as well if they go off in a lesson. I would really, and this is like it's almost like a plea from me, is try to avoid texting and calling them during the day. I know the temptation is there, and I know it's really, really tempting to do that, but you don't need to. If there is a problem at school, we will let you know as soon as we know about it. 9 times out of 10, if a pupil's phone goes off in a lesson that I'm teaching, it is usually their mum. And it's unnecessary, and you don't need it. If you want to speak to your children during the day, wait till lunchtime. Lunchtime is the same time every single day, and it's an easy enough thing for you to do. So like I said, try and avoid calling them. If you need to see someone, make an appointment to see them. Now, some of your children, I think I've kind of alluded to this already, some of your children will find it quite easy to settle in, but some of them won't. And I think we have to prepare ourselves for the fact that some of your children will find it really, really tough. And I think some, especially this year, because they've not been at school, or they are now back at school, but it's not in its normal form, really. And I think some people will find that really quite difficult. Now, there are lots of things that we do as a school to nurture children and also to help them through the transition process. We've got a great team of people at the school that help with this respect. Firstly, your children will have their form tutor, who, like I said, is someone that they will see every day. They've got their head of year. They have got the entire student services department. Now, within the student services department, we have got we've got student support managers who offer counselling services. We have behaviour managers that help us out with behaviour in the school. We have the deputy head. We've got the assistant head. We've got all the other heads of year and assistant heads of year. There are lots and lots of people. And one thing I will make sure is that your children are shown where student services is based on their first day at the school, whenever that is. We firmly believe, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, the homeschool relationship is absolutely vital to a successful career at school, any school. And that is something that we work really, really hard to achieve. And hence we're doing things like this, the live Q&A sessions. This is all to make you feel part of being at the Polesworth School. And we urge that, and we want that to happen, and we want to work with you on that. Now, on that note, sometimes, and I'm sure some of you may have experienced this already, sometimes your children may get into trouble. Sometimes your children may make the odd little mistake. That's fine. That's what kids do. It's part of growing up. Our job is to make sure that they don't do it again and that they learn from it. What we do ask is that if there is an incident at school, is that you let us deal with it. We have a very, very experienced team of people, of staff, of support staff that work closely with the children and with other members of staff to sort these things out. if there is an incident at school, if we know about it, we will always investigate it. Whether that be something that's happened in a class, whether it be a bullying incident, as long as we know about it, we will investigate it and we will deal with it as we see fit. And we really, really need your support with that, because it's really, really helpful if we're all singing from the same page. So that's a big change. It probably sounds more scary than it is. I'd say the majority of your kids will be used to it within about 2 weeks. I know that for every single year I am asked, how am I going to find my way around school? Will I get lost, etc., etc. Most people know their way around the school within 2 weeks. They will be operating on a 2-week timetable. And so after 2 weeks, they've done all their lessons, they've met all their teachers, and you'll be amazed. They'll be knackered, they'll be absolutely exhausted, but you'll be amazed at how quickly they settle in. The next one, the exciting topic of uniform. We always get questions about uniform, so I'm just going to run you through. And I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to talk, which you've probably noticed already, and then we'll stop for questions at the end. So uniform. Firstly, I hope you've all received the letter which I sent a couple of weeks ago about how the uniform sale has been cancelled this year due to the current circumstances. I also sent some information which gave you details of how to order the stuff, how to order the uniform. Now, most of the uniform you don't need to order off the school suppliers, and they're called Anglia, and they're on the school website. There's also a link in the school handbook. It's really easy to find. You can find it on the homepage of the website. Most of the uniform you can get from anywhere. So black trousers, or the black trousers, a white shirt with a collar, you can buy anywhere. The only things that you need that are logoed are the school jumper, if they want one, the blazer, their tie, and now you know which color tie to get because you know which house they're in, and also the skirt if they want it. We only sell one skirt. We only allow one skirt, and that is a skirt with a logo on it. When it comes to things like buying trousers, we really have quite strict rules about what we think is acceptable and what we don't think is acceptable. There is a link on the website again for that, which shows you what we deem to be acceptable and unacceptable. For example, if trousers are too tight, they are definitely not acceptable. If they're like leggings, they're not acceptable. When it comes to shoes, and you can see on the screen now actually that we've got, this is some of the pictures that we've got. There's lots of shoes. I have to just mention, I don't know if the weather's like this where you are, but it's just this, the heavens have just opened where I am. And if we do lose connection at any point, I'm really sorry about that, because I don't actually know what I'm supposed to do about that.
This document is on the school website. There's in the transition thing. I'm literally on the website now, scrolling through. So if you want to have a look at later, it's just on the transition website, if you can't see it clearly.
No. And also, when it comes to shoes, we're quite strict on that one as well. We want black shoes, not trainers. And my argument always is, if you're having to ask whether it's a trainer or a shoe, don't get it. Get the shoe. There are plenty of places, and some of the supermarkets might say to you, "Oh, but these are okay for school." The supermarkets don't know our policy, so I would always stick with, if it looks like a trainer, don't get it. Same with, and this usually isn't such an issue with year 7s, no facial piercings, we don't want big nails, just nails, natural color, no false nails. We don't want, like, you can wear one ring on each hand, but you don't have to. One set of stud earrings, and that's it. No extreme haircuts, no excessive makeup. You're at school to learn, and essentially, I mean, why anybody would want to get up 2 hours before school to put their makeup on, I have absolutely no idea. Some people do it. It's a waste of time, and actually, we really, really don't want people to be wearing excessive makeup. So that's the uniform. You may also have seen on the website that our times of day are changing a little bit next year. Now, I'm not going to go into that, but what I am going to tell you about is the fact that our year 7 next year, because we're changing the times of day, because we're changing the lunch times, year 7 will be having their lunch completely on their own. They will be the only year group having their lunch at that time. So we've shortened our lunches to half an hour in order to allow for 3 sittings of lunch. And year 7 will be having their lunch at 12:40 till 1:10, which I'm really, really happy about that. I think it'd be really nice for year 7 to just have lunch to themselves and there won't be lots of other children around. They will see during break time, obviously the whole school will be on break at the same time and they will see other children then, the older children, maybe their siblings. But I'm really happy that they will be having that specific lunchtime for themselves. And what we would ideally want is that they all sat in the hall and ate lunch together, because by only having one year group on lunch at that time means that there is room for them all to sit down. And if we were having our regular induction day, but that's what we always do on induction day as well. So a few more things that I want to talk about before I hand over to questions. So that's one really, really important thing is about organization. It is different for them. At primary school, they are generally based in the one classroom all the time, and nothing really changes from day to day. Whereas at Polesworth, they'll be operating on a 2-week timetable, so they'll have 5 lessons a day plus registration. And so some teachers will let them keep their books at school, and some won't. Some will make them pack their bags. Now, my suggestion is that you get a box at home, keep all their school books in, let them take responsibility for it. They will get their timetable on the first day, and it's also available on My Child, which you already have access to. And when the timetables are released, you will then be able to see their timetable as well, which you can print off. My suggestion actually would be print it off, stick it on the fridge. You always know what they've got then. Particularly if they've got like PE and you need to make sure their PE kit is clean, or if they've got technology and they need to bring in their cooking ingredients. These are all little things that you probably haven't thought too much about yet, but these are things that are going to help them to be more organized. So I would suggest as well, have a practice. Have a practice of how you're going to get to school. Have a practice of, if you're going to drive your children into school, work out your pickup points. It gets really, really busy. Imagine 1,600 people leaving the building at the same time. It gets busy. You need to work out where you're going to pick your kids up from. If they get in the bus, see if there's any way that, have a practice. If they're walking, have a practice. Put everything out the night before school. I always pack my bag the night before I go to school, so I'm not rushing around in the morning. We always used to tell this story of how, imagine having to go to the supermarket first thing in the morning because you need your ingredients to make your fruit salad in food technology that day and you haven't got it. And there's nothing more annoying than having to pop 7 o'clock in the morning to get the ingredients. But we give fair warning on ingredients and what kids need. So it's just about making sure that you are organized and that they are organized. I would also, to avoid last minor panics in the morning, is make sure you know where a spare set of stuff is as well. Most of you, I imagine, will get more than one pair of trousers, more than one shirt. Make sure you know where the spares are. So like I said, make a copy of the timetable. Get yourself a box for keeping your books in. Get a routine together. Now, the homework, they will get homework and they will get a couple of pieces of homework a week. But my suggestion for you would be to actually just have a homework time in the afternoon. When they get home from school, maybe let's just say, I don't know, 4 o'clock to 5. I mean, it's completely up to you. This is just an idea, but have a homework time where it's a set time every day where your kids sit and do their homework. Really, really important that they get on, because one surefire way for your children to find themselves in trouble is if they don't do the work that's set. And most kids, and I can talk about this again a bit later as well, but most kids will never, ever get a detention in their time at the school. but some will. And really, one of the main reasons why kids get detention, especially when they're younger, is that they've forgotten to do their homework, or if they don't understand it, they don't go and ask somebody. Now, our jobs as teachers is to help your children, and we want the best for them. So if your child doesn't understand, or if you don't understand the homework, which does happen sometimes as well, ask. We are available to be asked, and we want to help you, and we want your children to do the best that they possibly can. I would also suggest that you label everything. Every part of their uniform, label. If they're bringing a packed lunch, label the box. If stuff gets lost and it's got a name on it, it always finds its way back to the child. Always. If it's not got a label on it, then it's much, much harder. We keep all the lost property in student services, and most of it gets, like I've said, gets given back to the people. But if there's no name in it, we can't help you. It's much, much more difficult. And if you think when PE lesson, you've got 30 people getting changed, 30 boys getting changed in the changing room at one time, they're all wearing the same uniform. It's really easy to lose stuff or get stuff mixed up. Many, many years ago, we had somebody that mixed up their shoes and we never managed to rematch them. So label everything, work out a routine, work out a bedtime, a getting up time, a who's using the bathroom at what time you're going to leave. Try and avoid gaming before bedtime. Try and avoid, in an ideal world, take their phone away from them before bedtime so they're not tempted to use their phone at night. We find a lot of tired children because they have their phones with them through the night. I would try, set a routine. It is scientifically proven that if you are using your phone before you go to bed, it will keep your mind active and it makes it harder to sleep. Ideally, take their phone away, stop them gaming, have a proper bedtime. I think the mornings are really important as well because there's nothing worse than having to queue for the bathroom. So have a rota, have a bathroom rota. These are all, you don't have to do any of these things, but these are all things I'm trying to make your life easier and I'm trying to make it smoother for your children. Just literally a couple more things that I wanted to mention. Illness. Now, obviously, sometimes your children will get ill. That's understandable, especially in the current climate. Our aim for your children is that they have 96% attendance. Now, if you look in the handbook, I've actually put some statistics in there that if your child has 90% attendance over their 5 years, over year 7 to 11, if their attendance is 90%, that actually works out at half a school year. Now, when you don't think of it that way, when it's just like the odd day here, the odd day there, but it adds up. 80% attendance over a 5-year period is an entire year's worth of school missed. And I know it sounds silly, and I feel silly even having to say it, but there is a direct link between progress, achievement, and attendance. And a key part of my role and the other heads of year is to monitor attendance. And we will do that. And if we feel that your attendance is dipping below a certain acceptable level, we will be in touch. But having said that, if your child is ill and they're really ill, then they can't come into school. We understand that. And you need to make sure that you let school know. We have something called truancy call, which triggers at about 9:30 in the morning to anybody that hasn't come to school and also that we've not had a phone call from. And that gets triggered automatically. And you will get a phone call and the phone will continue to ring until somebody answers it. It will go through all the numbers that we have on the system. So if you are not in school or if there's an extenuating circumstance, as long as we know, it's fine. But we need to know as soon as possible. Wanted to say one more thing about dinner, lunches. You will get a letter in a couple of weeks about our parent pay system. We are a cashless school. So we don't, children don't need to bring in any money to school unless they are topping up their account. But what we like to ask is that you, as a parent, keep an eye on their account. The great thing about parent pay, and some of you may already use it in the primary schools, but the great thing about parent pay is that you can see exactly what your kids are eating. you can spy on them as much as you want in terms of what they're eating, because everything that they purchase from the school canteen will be on there. Now, parent pay isn't just for lunch, it's also for school trips, it's for books, it's when they get a bit older, it's for the prom, it's for the yearbook, it's for all kinds of things. Everything is paid for through parent pay. But we ask that you keep an eye on it, you top it up. Obviously, if your child goes overdrawn by a little bit, we can cover that, but only to only a very small amount, and then we would expect you to pay that back straight away. Now, lots and lots of different options for food, but also if your child is free school meals, then don't worry. One of the great things with parent pay is that it's so discreet because they use their thumb. It's a thumbprint. We'll take their thumbprints on the first day, and then it's an electronic system where they put their thumb on it, or they have a PIN number, so no one need ever know if someone is free school meals or not. So I suppose finally, before I open up the questions, is we want you to enjoy it. We want your children to enjoy it. We want you to enjoy it. This is something that you've all been through. I've certainly been through. It's something that every child goes through, is that transition to secondary school. It is a big change. It is a little bit scary. But I also think there's a bit of nervous excitement there as well for them. So I'm really hoping that you do enjoy it and that we can make the most of it. I'm looking forward to starting our new relationship with all of the new parents. I would encourage your children to join in with as much as they possibly can. Within the first couple of weeks, there'll be auditions for the school play. There will be all kinds of sports clubs for them to join in. The best way for them to meet new people, especially if they're coming on their own, is for them to join in and do as much as they can. And just one last thing: don't give them horror stories. we always get, there's always these kids, some kids that are really, really scared because they think their heads are going to get flushed down the toilet or something like that. It never happens that I'm aware of. No, it never happens. And don't fill them with horror stories. We want to make this a nice, smooth journey for them. I'm pretty much done. If anybody's got, I don't know if Mr. Brooks, have there been many questions coming in?
We've got reams of questions.
Wow.
Some of them are doubled, but what I'll do is I'll put them up on the screen so we can all see, and we'll start at the top. So many ask, are we going to go ahead and buy uniform in the hope that she'll come back in September? I had this the other day on a direct message, is that if they're not back, do we still buy uniform, because are they going to not fit anymore, and is it going to be too small, too big, etc.?
Oh, that's a really good question. And unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that because we don't know what the government is going to decide. I would personally suggest get the uniform, because the chances are we are going to be back at school in some form in September. If you think that we've got our key worker children, we've got our year 10s, we've got our year 12s coming back in, and they're wearing uniform, the year 10s and the key worker children. So I would prepare for as if we are going back. I'm sorry, I can't be any more precise than that, but we don't have that information yet. Sorry.
Right, and the next question we have, we've got a couple I won't bring up on the screen. A couple of people said that they haven't had any information yet. So to those people, don't worry. I've got your details. I will talk to Mr. Rossen when we've finished, and we'll make sure that's there.
I know that
we've had this.
Sorry to interrupt. I know that there's been some issues with postage. I know that personally in my own house, we get post maybe once a week at the moment. So I know that it's not necessarily a regular postage service, but I have got all the class details and I can let anybody know. So if Mr. Brooks gives me your addresses, that's fine.
We've had this one a couple of times, not just from this person here. Is it possible to change language? My son was really hoping to do German, but he's given French. I've had this 4 or 5 times over the week, so I'll let give the...
I'm sorry about that, folks. So I sent a letter out back in March when you were first offered the place. And I did, in the letter, one of the letters was if you had a specific reason why you wanted your child to do a specific language. And anybody that writes back to me, and I had about 30 people get back to me on that, they will get the language that they've asked for. If you don't, it's all potluck. And unfortunately, at this stage, this might not be what you want to hear, but at this stage, because we are chock-a-block, I have no room for maneuver. Because if I take somebody out of a French group, I've got to move somebody out of a German group, and if you, like I explained earlier, the groups are carefully balanced. I've spoken with the primary schools. They are usually with at least 1 or 2 people that they already know, a friend, hopefully. So it would be a lot of upheaval, and it's at the moment it's not something that I'm able to do.
Lovely. I did get a question, I can't find it now, asking if we do Spanish, sir.
We don't do Spanish, just French and German. Ooh,
this is quite a nice one.
That's a very broad question. I would recommend, and I've put this in the handbook, which is available on the school website. A pencil case, you need at a minimum, you need a ruler, a pencil, a pen, and a rubber. That's your minimum. Now, what I really love, and this is one of my favorite reasons for my favorite things about working with Year 7, is Year 7 love stationery. And Year 7 will start and they will come with their big pencil cases full of felt tips, gel pens, crayons, wax crayons. Brilliant. Bring as much as you want. The only things you absolutely need are a pen, pencil, ruler, and a rubber. And a calculator for maths, but that's it. That's the only things that you definitely need. We will provide you with paper, with books, with textbooks, etc.
We have this one.
Yes, Ella, you will get your timetable on the first day. Yeah, and like I said earlier, you will actually be able to access it on My Child before you start as well.
Okay, let's get rid of that. It's a really good question, actually.
Yeah, shout out when you put your name on it as well. That's good. Miss Downing, who's one of the assistant heads, she deals with all the buses. I know that at the moment the buses have been specifically arranged in order to pick people up at the earlier finishing time. So the earlier finishing time from September, absolutely the buses will be. The school buses, I'm not 100% sure about the service buses. So if you're coming from Tamworth and you're not using one of the school buses and using a service bus, I don't know. You would have to contact Tamworth. I think it's probably Tamworth Borough Council or Staffordshire Borough Council about that, because I'm not 100% sure of that. But I can find out. I can do a bit of research for you on that. Just even write that down now.
We've had a couple of questions about lockers, sir. 2 people. One person said, "What's the availability for lockers?" And another person said, "How much are they?"
Okay. Do you know, it's funny. Somebody asked me this today as well. I did a meeting with Birchwood today. So lockers, I always find this a funny one because people ask this every single year. And I think it's because people think that lockers in high school are like High School Musical or any American drama in a high school where everyone just crowds around the lockers and it's all, everyone's having fun in a chat. We do have lockers. We don't have very many lockers. They're free, but you have to provide, they will be allocated if you want one, and you have to provide your own padlock. Now, most people do not bother with a locker because there are very few times in the day when you can actually go to your locker to get things in and out. The only times really that you would be able to do that are before school, at break time, and at lunchtime. Most people carry everything with them that they need for that day. And it's not that much. I mean, you've got 5 lessons. You might have PE as well. You get used to it. Everyone else does. So, yeah, so there are lockers, but they're not as big a deal as people think, I think.
And this is quite a nice one. Can you please tell me what would happen if a pupil is being bullied?
Okay, well, like I said earlier, and I'll be honest with you, because it would be wrong of me to say that bullying never happens, because unfortunately, the world that we live in these days, bullying does happen. Be it online, be it physical, be it mental, all kinds of stuff. Now, there are lots of things that we do to help that. First and foremost, we need to know about it. If we don't know about it, then we can't help you. And I know that for some people, their big worry is, well, if I tell you, then it's going to get worse. Now, we have all kinds of methods of dealing with stuff like that. Because if someone is getting picked on, the chances are somebody else has seen it as well. So we have to think about, we've got all kinds of methods of ways to deal with bullying. We always investigate fully. Anything, no matter how big or small, will be investigated by our student support managers, behavior managers, and by our heads of year. We also have bully mentors, which are older pupils. If you don't really feel that comfortable talking to an adult, we have older pupils, usually year 10s and 11s, that you can also speak to. There's your form tutor. But key thing, and I will say this again and again and again, is you need to tell somebody, because we don't tolerate bullying and we want to stamp it out, as everyone does, but we need to know about it. So you will have a support network at school. There will be lots and lots of people for you to speak to.
An admin question. When should we set up parent pay?
When you get the letter. I spoke with the finance office this week, and they are planning on sending out the letters in the first 2 weeks of July before we break up.
And this will be a nice quick one. Will there be school dinners or just sandwich on the first day? I think that's probably a COVID-related question, I think.
I don't. If that's a COVID-related question, I don't know, because at the moment pupils are pre-ordering their lunch when they get into school. If that is a just ordinary circumstances question, yes, there will be school dinners and sandwiches and anything else on the first day, because hopefully someone will have put some money on your account.
Would we be made aware if the kids will be going back either full-time or part-time in September, a couple of weeks before they start, due to what's going on at the moment?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We will keep you fully informed. I hope that you are satisfied with the amount of contact that we get. I realize I am emailing you quite a lot at the moment. I will continue that through the summer holiday. And whenever I've got any information or significant changes, I will let you know as soon as I do. Because I think it's really, really important that we are prepared and ready for whatever the circumstances are in September.
Lovely. We've got quite a lot about extracurricular clubs, a lot about sports. I think rather than go through them individually, I think I can pretty much say that on the first day, people will generally be able to give you that information, and they are open to everybody. We do have a girls' football team. There are music clubs, and all that will become apparent as you arrive. This is a self-explanatory one for you, sir, just while I find the next question.
Do you need to buy the tie for what? Yes, you do. So just in case you're not sure, it is on the uniform website, but Arden is green, Kenilworth is blue, Warwick is red, and Stratford is yellow.
For the keen students in the morning.
We do serve breakfast from 8 o'clock in the school canteen. We are looking at introducing a breakfast club. Basically, people start to arrive from about 7:45, I would say. I mean, I generally get there about 7:30 in the morning, and there's usually 1 or 2 kids there already. There's no childcare available like first thing in the morning, but most people get there between 8 and 8:15. And because the day starts at 8:30, lessons start at 8:30. They have to be in their lesson by then. So the earliest I've ever seen anybody is probably about 7:45. But that's rare.
Next one. Oh, this is going to be an easy question because we've just released a video on this. Where's the main hall when we go into school on the first day?
If I could refer you to our YouTube channel and our Facebook page, and also to the school website, there is a video which shows you exactly where to go. It's actually really easy. And also, if you ask anybody, maybe not your older brother or sister, because they might point you in the wrong direction, but if you ask anybody, they will point you in the right direction.
Cool. A couple of little uniform ones, sir. So they're allowed to wear a skirt without a logo if it meets the criteria and the length will fit?
No, it's the only skirts we allow are the ones with the logo.
cool. And all that is visually on the website as well. If you get stuck, send us a DM and I can point you in the right direction. Oh, this is quite an interesting one.
No idea. I don't get involved with bus passes. I think if you've applied for bus pass, that should arrive over the summer holiday. We don't, unfortunately, we don't. That's out of our control, the bus passes.
And is there an area for bikes?
That's a very good question. We do have a bike shed. I would thoroughly recommend that you get a padlock or a chain to tie your bike up with. Now, fortunately, there is CCTV in that area, and we don't really have a problem with people taking or damaging bikes, but it's a good thing to do is to chain up your bike. Is it raining in Polesworth? It's absolutely pouring down here.
We can hear the thunder. This one's linked to the bike question, actually. I think that the lock is more for just general safety. But do the main gates get locked once children in for registration? How safe are the school grounds to people wandering in?
Right. So that's a very, very good question. We are an open site because of the sports centre that is attached to the school, and that is a community sports centre. What I can tell you is the gates aren't locked, but all the buildings are locked. So 5 minutes after the start of a lesson, all the doors are shut, and you can get out from inside, but you can't get in from outside unless you've got a pass. So, for example, as a teacher, I have to use this my lanyard to get in, and all members of staff have these, and sixth formers have these. But no, the buildings are secure during lesson time, and on the very few occasions where we've had people wandering around the site, they have been dealt with instantly. I promise you that.
Lovely. Just a few more left. And I will say that for any question that we don't get a chance to go through, we've got a copy of them all here. I will find a way of addressing or messaging you guys as we go. This is an interesting one about attendance and holidays, because obviously things are being rebooked and moved around, and about not being at school.
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I don't really know how to answer that question, because obviously if holidays get rescheduled for next year, they may overlap. I believe that a lot of holidays that will be rescheduled, I have to reschedule my one that I was meant to go on Easter. We were given a choice of dates. So I obviously, as a member of staff, wouldn't organise to go during term time. I think you'd have to speak to the holiday company. We don't really know what things are going to look like next year, and we are going to have to take things day by day. So I can't give you a more solid answer to that question. I don't really know the answer at the moment. I would generally not recommend going on holiday during term time, ever. I'm hoping so. Will each year 7 tutor do a video before they start? I have asked. I've asked them to. Not everybody is really happy about making videos. I clearly don't have a problem with it. You've seen me loads, but I'm hoping so. And on the virtual induction day, that's when we're hoping to do that. Some of them are new members of staff that haven't been to the school yet. So yes, fingers crossed we will have videos of all the new staff for you.
Just a few more, sir, for you. This is a couple of PE questions. Do you need PE kit on the first day?
No, don't bring it on your first day. If you do have PE on your first day, they won't expect you to be doing PE. So don't worry about it.
Very quickly. Here's a question. Is there a school newsletter?
There is a school newsletter. So we have Polesworth Matters, which comes out every fortnight, which is available on the website, which covers all kinds of necessary information that you need to know. There's also, and I think Mr. White is your head of year. I may be creating an extra job for him now, but I believe he's going to be doing something for year 7 as well. I like the idea of a school newsletter because it kind of it's a really good opportunity to mark people's achievements. And we are introducing a new reward system in September. And we are also, we mark achievements as well. And one way to do that would be through a newsletter. So, yes.
And I'd also say, as somebody kind of experimented with this, check Facebook. There's an Instagram account that a lot of the students use, and we flood that as much as we can. So most information, if you want it live as it happens, will be on there, and then there'll be a weekly summary somewhere. A quick one about My Child, sir. How do we sign up?
You should have had an email a couple of weeks ago from My Child telling you how to do that. If not, get in touch with me directly and I will try and get that sorted for you.
Fantastic. Now, sir, the only other questions have actually been answered by Mr. Hockridge, because he's on the chat about PE. So he's been answering questions there. So thank you, sir. Most of the uniform things, if you head to the school website, there is images of everything as well. And that's probably going to answer most of your questions. Apart from the odd question about who will win in a fight between a polar bear and a tiger, I think that's all.
Well, obviously a polar bear.
Thank you, Ellis, for that one.
Ex-pupil as well. Hello, Ellis.
But that's all the questions that I can see that are not doubled. When we finish, I'll go back through that and just check. To Sarah, who just made a comment, she's not had any emails from school. Don't worry, I'll look into that for you. We've had a couple of people that might have missed something, so I will look into that for you when we finish, and I'll go and we'll get in touch with you as we go.
Brilliant. So if people are, so like I said, we're going to do the virtual induction day on the 8th of July. And if people have enjoyed this, I'm more than happy to do this again. I don't know what I talk about next time, but we'll find something. But I'm more than happy to do this again. And any communication, I'm happy to keep the communication lines as open as possible. And you've all got my email address. And I believe that Mr. Brooks is going to put that on the screen as well at the end.
Yes, in fact, I'll just do that now very quickly. And this is just a general for staff. All of our emails are the same. They come with the first initial dot the surname. I'll just type up sirs at thepolserschool.com. So if my spelling is correct, hopefully that should be that should be not that one. No, we've already had a question.
No, there's no smart. It's just p.roston.
Oh, my apologies.
That's okay. I thought I'd keep it like that to avoid confusion. That didn't work. What I will say is thank you so much. I have no idea how many of you are actually watching or listening. That is my email address.
We've had 159, sir.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time this evening. I've had a great time. So I will keep you posted. The website is regularly updated. The Facebook page is regularly updated. The YouTube is regularly updated. We're churning out lots of videos at the moment, so just keep an eye out for those. And yes, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.